With me now in studio are Ofer Bronstein, president of the International Forum for Peace and former advisor to Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin.
Good evening.
Good evening. And Orly Benny Davis, strategic advisor. Thank you both for joining me this evening. Orly, I want to start with you. Here we are, ahead of a third round now in 1 year. Firstly, as a citizen looking at this, do you have any hope this might be the one that will stick?
Well, first of all, I want to tell all the leadership in Israel and around the globe, you know, we're not that bad usually because people are watching and they need to understand that Israel is really cool and they are playing it right no matter what happened with this election. However, this election needs to be the end of this cycle of madness because they have to grow up and decide to get along, because whatever happened until now, it's like they don't want to play with each other, and the opinion of the public is what matters, not what they think. You know, they come to the play, they need to play whatever the people of Israel gives them to play with, and if they are good politicians, they can make the difference. If they're not, they are not in the right game. You know, politics is all about compromise. It's not something that, you know, or me or nobody else. It's, and all those high grounds that they're holding, it's like beside us. You know, the people of Israel is really stunned to see what's going on. But I'm sure that this time it's going to be different because we're going to take them to the task to make it happen.
So what would be a proper end to this evil cycle of a unity government between the two largest parties?
First of all, as an Israeli, I'm very concerned. I don't know what will be the outcome of the election tomorrow night, but I know what will be the outcome of the Israeli society after tomorrow. A divided society, a wounded society, the Russian with the Russian, the Ashkenazi with the Ashkenazi, the Sephardic with the Sephardic, the liberal with the liberal, the Orthodox with the Orthodox. We are facing a society that is very wounded. And the debate in the third election we're witnessing, the debate in the last year was very violent, not very serious neither. The real issue of the Israeli people were not really being considered by the politician. It was either yes Bibi or no Bibi, the personality of Benny Gantz, the personality of Mr. Netanyahu, but we did not talk about the real problem of the Israeli. The real problem of the Israeli, it's our health system, it's our educational system, it's unemployment in the Israeli society, and we do face today the beginning of an economical crisis like everywhere else in the world due to this virus. So the real problem of this housing for the young people, the real problem of the Israeli were not put on the table. It was about the personality of the candidate, and it was very violent. So I'm very concerned by it. What will be the outcome tomorrow, I don't know. The thing that I do know, and I think that it's making the Israeli democracy very weak, is in democracy you need to have alternates. In the United States, a president can be twice president. In France, a president can be twice president. In Israel, Mr. Netanyahu is more or less 20 years in power, 10 years on a row. I think that it's time to give to a new generation of Israeli, a new generation of politicians, a new generation of leaders the space to see what they can do for the Israeli society. And the worst part of it, and the difference between this election and the one before, is that in 10 days, Mr. Netanyahu is facing a trial. I wish for him to come out of it clean as snow. But I cannot see a prime minister, especially in a country like Israel, which is a complicated country to run, being in the morning in a trial, and in the afternoon dealing with the chief of staff. It's something that I cannot conceive. I wish for Mr. Netanyahu to come out of his trial innocent, but in the meantime, I think that he has to step down and to give to the new leaders a chance to run this country.
So how is it then that all these issues like housing for the people who need it, like the healthcare system, even the conflict, you know, and the bombs and rockets on the south disappeared from these last three campaigns?
I think that too many men in one game, it's really a horrible situation because we have not enough women in the the game. And nothing, against man. But you have to even the field, and we don't have a say in that. And women are not allowed even to participate in this high-ranking, incredible game of democracy in Israel. And this is a fact all over the board. Okay, let's talk a bit of business. I'm sorry.
Some countries better.
Listen, European love women, and they will give it to them.
I agree with you.
Israel, for some reason, they're so macho and they cannot fight, but they need, they need the mommy sometimes to handle the situation. And I'm so sad to say that they have to grow up. And the fact of the matter is they have to grow up not because it's about time that, we give it to one place or another. We have a condition, a regional crisis on our hands. Turkey has been attacking Syria right now as we speak. We have a game in play of war. And the Middle East is on the verge of collapsing, the balance of power is changing. America is pulling the soldier from Afghanistan. We have a situation that cannot be ignored by, goody two-shoes wants to play. They have to come aboard and just get along. And the fact of they don't want to sit with Bibi Netanyahu, I want to tell them something. And I want to tell them right clear and, even. If the Justice Department of the State of Israel decide that he is electable, so be it. Let them rule. It's not their business. They want to be more holy than the Pope. They cannot say, hey, we're not sitting. And the fact that Lieberman is playing both ends all the time, and the end of the game is going to, be maybe out of the game because he pulled it too long. He didn't decide which he is liberal. He doesn't want religious, but he's anti-Arabic. Or you're liberal or you're not. You cannot be both sides of the road. So, crisis. They have a personality crisis right now, but we have a crisis on our hands in the Middle East, and that's more important. And the people out there that are looking at us, we have AIPAC event right now happening, which is the most important thing for us to show them that we are all together and we're going to pull it together.
Well, no, the Israeli society is divided. To make believe that it's a united society, it's a lie. The Israeli society is deeply divided, and I'm very concerned by it. Again, we have to wake up in 2 days and to try to sue again all this society that is torn apart.
No, the media is divided. We're not divided.
The politicians are dividing the country.
Right.
Now, I agree with you on one thing. I would love to see more women and more young people getting involved in the political arena. On that, I agree with you. But on the fact that Bibi Netanyahu, the legal department of the State of Israel, did not say that he cannot run. But they did put them, he has to face a trial in 10 days. This is a fact. Now, I'm concerned when I see that today, 500 doctors in Israel, in the midst of a crisis that we are living with, with the coronavirus, are writing a letter to the President of the State, to Mr. Rivlin, and telling him, listen, a prime minister that is under trial cannot be our prime minister. We won't accept to get any order from him as a prime minister. Last week, it was a few hundred pilots in the army that wrote a letter to Mr. Rivlin and tell him, listen, this guy cannot give us orders as pilot in the army. Last week, all the former chief of the agencies in Israel, the Shabak and the Mossad, all of them, said we don't have any more confidence in this prime minister. He has to face trial. Again, I wish for him to come out of it clean as snow. But in the meantime, it's time to step down. And it's time to give to new forces, women, young people, to run the country.
You see, I agree with you.
A quick break, Orly and Ofer, I'm sorry, a quick break for us. We'll have to go for 2 minutes, but our discussion continues after this. Please stay with us.
From Hollywood to the Holy Land. We bring you all that's trending in lifestyle, arts, entertainment, and technology. speaking to the culture catalysts which create, innovate and inspire. Plus, what's turning heads in the social sphere. If it's creating a buzz, we've got it covered. Tune into Trending, only on I24 News.
We're on the inside of political and religious passions in Jerusalem, breaking down the financial trends shaping the global economy, giving you key context, not just headlines, with the stories from Israel that touch the U.S. and those across the region with impact far beyond its borders. Catch the rundown where the Middle East meets the world.
On March 2nd, Israelis go back to the polls for the third time within 1 year. Polls show the results will be just as deadlocked, the country just as divided as elections 1 and 2, as Netanyahu continues to fight for a record 5th term in office. I24 News is breaking down the complex diplomatic drama and the possible outcomes after Election Day. Complete coverage only on I24 News.
On stateside, it's not just about delivering the news. It's about giving meaning to the news and doing so with clarity.
These families waiting to get into the country, how long will they be in detention?
What happens around the rest of the world can have a huge impact on the United States. And what happens in the United States can have a huge impact on the rest of the world. That's stateside.
Welcome back to this hour on I24 News. We're continuing our rolling coverage ahead of the general election in Israel tomorrow. Our discussion continues in studio now with Ofer Bronstein and Orly Benny Davis. And Orly, before we went to break, you were just about to respond to Ofer about his point that a prime minister cannot.
We really would love to see our leaders high and above, and they are immaculate and beautiful, and they're right. Yeah. The problem is we have somebody. I'm with you on this.
They work for us.
But we have to face reality right now, and the reality is really, really incredible, because we have third election and we have still the same guy running for the Likud party, and he's Benjamin Netanyahu is running the government right now. He's the prime minister, and he's not going to willingly give up his position. He's not, because there is a trial, and if the Justice Department decide not to, push him out, we cannot do anything, and he has all the right to all of the power as long as he can. That is right, and the Justice Department say, okay, we can say, hey, move along, but that's not politics. Politics will never play like this. They need to fight it until the end, for example. However, I would say Blue and White, that got the best role in the first election, 30-something seats, and they gave up that play. Because, when you're coming new to the game, you shouldn't pretend like you can, me or nobody. They should have come and play. That's show how mature they are now.
What do you want them to do?
They had to come to make a government. They had to.
The Likud did not want to go with them.
No,
Blue and White are saying something very clear. We are willing, and that's what the Israeli society needs today. Okay. It's a coalition government. It's a government that unifies the Israeli society. Then it's
without Bibi.
Without the prime minister.
But you can't say that.
Because he's going to face a trial.
Listen,
one more thing. 20 years in power. It doesn't sound good for a democracy.
But it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
The
and I want to tell
you,
great lady, I want to tell you one more thing. I do expect from my leaders, from politicians, to be honest people. First of all, they are
like my doctor to be a good doctor.
Exactly. And one difference. The politician, these leaders, the Prime Minister of Israel is being paid by you and by me. They work for us. They should be an example for our children. They should be giving us back what we are paying for.
Let's not make any mistakes. I would love to see justice being done in the state of Israel. But justice needs to be clear and beautiful. Needs to be, I believe. But the problem is we don't have a constitution. election. And every time when they're talking about, the Supreme Court, they're coming and they said, according which law you're working? Well, according to the international law. But we have no constitution, so the law is flexible. Read the books of that's what I'm saying.
It's like power 20 years, why I didn't do it. But I want to tell you something when it comes to the taxpayer.
Sure.
The last three elections are cost to the taxpayer in Israel over 4 billion shekel, of close to $1.5 billion. With this money, we could have built something that we speak about for 60 years, a train from Tel Aviv to Eilat, and to make the periphery closer to the center. We could have changed the reality of this country. We could have given answer to young couples that cannot have access to housing. We could have give answer to the thousands of doctors and nurses that are telling us we cannot work, we don't have any more room, we don't have any more beds in the hospital. We could have give answer to the thousands of teachers in the Israeli system that have to teach with classes of 50 and 60 kids in a class. And instead of that, we are wasting our money just to save one person. It's absolutely unacceptable.
I just hope on that note that this indeed will be, as Orly said at the beginning of our conversation, the last one for this round.
God willing.
God willing, so no more money is spent and our time and nerves. Orly Benny Davis and Ophel Bonstein, thank you so much for this. It was a pleasure discussing this with you.
Thank you so much.
And then on the sidelines of election news, as you know, Blue and White Party leader Benny Gantz claimed on Twitter today that Prime Minister Benjamin